Today I'm going to talk about a construction drawing that we're going to start developing tonality on top of that construction drawing. So there's a PDF presentation in the same module that this video is in that I hope you'll read, and it explains, I think, quite a lot about good techniques for developing the tone. First of all, you need a really nice long pencil, so make sure that you take advantage of the things that are in the PDF as far as sharpening, using a sandpaper pad. What a nice long point. You won't be able to do these techniques that I'm going to show you without using a nice long point on your pencil. Now I'm going to use a black Derwent drawing pencil. You could also use that. You could also use a graphite pencil if you want to start off with a lighter graphite, like say an HB for your initial gesture and construction drawing, and then maybe bring in a 2B or even a 3B, 4B, something along those lines for developing the value. You could even go as light as a B, but I'd probably go with something like a 2B to 4B. You can even use your ebony pencil for this exercise too. I want to do these about 40 minutes. I'd like to do 20 minutes of construction, which I'm going to do now. I always want to emphasize that that's the most important step that we take, because it doesn't matter how good you are with tone. If you don't have something strong to put that tone on, it's just not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and go through that construction, the gesture and the construction of the figure first, and then start talking about tonality, gaining tonality in your drawing, shading. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started. It's a nice twist to his torso. I want to get that right away, including the line of the spine right into the butt. I want to make sure that I'm in the ballpark as far as my proportions. I'm going to keep it really light for a while. I'm going to get into that pelvic box right away. Balance line goes right through his knee. Very wide shoulders. Angle the arms. A slight angle that way. His hand's going to line up with his hip. Start thinking about cylinders. Line up his elbows. This one's a little bit lower. Nothing dark, nothing heavy yet. I want to be able to adjust it if I need to. And I can do some light construction in here, scapula, both sides. Rib cage, bottom of the rib cage. I know that's about maybe 3/4 of a head. Greater trochanter, widest point. Okay. Trapezius. All these muscles on top of his scapula. Really good to spend a little extra time with. Spending a little extra time now on just a real light indication of refinement of the contours. I started off with real simple cylinders. I'm coming in and developing the muscular contours on all areas of the body. And that's what our sketchbook is starting to get into as well. Nothing heavy, nothing dark. I'll probably come in a little bit at the end with a little bit more contour emphasis, but I want to get a little bit further along before I start adding value. So I'm going to start what's called shadow mapping, and I'm going to do that with the darkest values, the darkest shadows in here, which are the core shadows. And if you read the PDF, you'll know what I'm talking about as far as that core. So now the question is finding it, seeing it. So start with the areas that are darkest, and this is where the long pencil comes in handy. You know, you're indicating where that core is. Go for the strongest core first. And these are all pretty much vertical pulls, so I'm moving down and across. But mostly it's a standing pose, so it's not just a continuous straight line. It's going to be lost and found, it's going to be broken edged. But it is the darkest of the shadows. Here's the spine. Comes up around the external oblique muscle. Coming inside, edge of the scapula. Right around that olecranon process. It's a really nice core all the way down to the wrist. There's a little core right on top of that extensor muscle. Okay, I'm going to come along right into the leg here for the core. It's a bigger core. A little softer on a calf muscle. So that's a pretty nice core. There's a nice core right along the edge. Okay, now let's start to fill some of this in. It's much more subtle, right in the transition where it goes from shadow to light. So I'm going to spend a little extra time in there. And then as we drop down, it's more uniform shadow. So you can take the side of your pencil now and just drag it across the surface. It's not a uniform drag. It's, you know, there's nuanced value in there. So strong dark value right up against the edge. Looks like a cast shadow of his arm right here. So it's light's coming across. So that's going to be a little bit darker. Come across here. Nice cast shadow of the muscle over on this side. So it's fairly sharp. just a little accent here. So I'm going to come down into his leg now. I've got the core pretty much established in here. Pull it a little bit farther over. Down into the Achilles tendon. Now would be a good time to, especially if you were running out of time, which you're not, but now would be a good time to take a look at it and see if you need to strengthen any line. I think this is a good place to accent right here. A little lighter here. A little darker here. A little stronger core here. Got a little reflected light coming around. Lateral condyle, olecranon process. Think about when you're constructing. There's my pelvic crest right here. Line here, that's a good place. This is a good place. This is in front of that leg, so I want a little stronger line right there. Okay. So just a little bit more. A little bit more detail, a little bit more dimension, a little bit more refinement. All right, so I hope that was helpful. I want to see what you guys can do with this. Again, 30 to 40 minute, I'd say closer to 40 minute would be a good idea. Use Derwa drawing or graphite, fairly dark. Start with a gesture. Spend half your time on gesture and construction. And let's see what you can do with some of the drawings that I send to you to copy, and also some of those models from your own website. Definitely look for photographs that have good tonality like this. You can't do this without a sharp pencil, long sharp lead, and a really good reference photo that has great lighting on it. You know, this kind of hemispheric lighting where it's going across the form like this and picking out those muscles. Make sure that you find those pictures. Okay? So I'm sending you some examples that have pretty good lighting, musculature, tonality, but you're going to have to look for those examples for yourself. So make sure that you do get some good ones, okay? And I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do with this, all right? This is the start of tonality. All right. Hope it was helpful.